or promoted one a year or so ago. I signed up, but didn't really follow up.
They mostly perish. I mean, I was talking to a tech expert that I know, and they were telling me it's just so expensive to run that kind of an app. And that when people get into it, they don't think about the expense. They don't think about maintaining something like that and what it
Yeah.
takes, marketing it. I think the Threads has a unique advantage, which is that they already own Instagram, so
Yeah.
and Facebook,
Yeah. Yeah.
so they have a built-in audience.
Yeah. So they're different. They're just shifting their audience as opposed to creating something.
And Elon Musk was on Twitter talking smack about Mark Zuckerberg,
Oh yeah,
talking
they got
about
a
him
fight
like a
coming up.
dog. Yeah, they're like battle of the billionaires, billionaire beef,
Yeah, well, we'll see.
billionaire gangbanging.
Hey, it's gonna be something. South Africa, America. There's a lot on that fight, man.
Oh, you mean because Elon Musk is a white South African
Yeah, yeah,
and Mark Zuckerberg is a Harvard-educated North American?
yeah,
Interesting. Well, yeah, I'm team for the people, as I'm sure you are.
yeah,
Whatever's
yeah.
best for us.
Yeah, I know. Just hopefully, some black security guards or some getting paid nicely to.
To keep the billionaires from
Yeah,
killing each other.
something
I'm
like.
sure you heard me on the way in, or maybe you didn't, but you probably heard yourself. This decision around on the Black Wall Street,
Yeah,
the judge ruling that the 3 survivors of the Tulsa Massacre could not prove individual harm.
yeah.
I'm really mad about it. It's just really got me angry.
Well, it it will anger you if you are someone that believes that there's justice available, then it's angering. And in some ways in our system it is. We got about 3/5 of the available justice there is to be had is what we can expect
How do you
in
come up
courts.
with 3/5? Is that because we were 3/5 of a man or woman in the Constitution, or
Yeah, and that's just from what I've seen from my personal experiences.
okay?
What I see the way we're looked at. Like I had a judge recently rule against me on a motion to suppress after an officer told an outrageous story that his body cam disproved. And we proved. He said, I had my eyes on him the whole time, but his partner was behind him, and we see him shining the light and looking to the right. And he said, oh, the car that they ran up on my client in was parked in a red with a fire hydrant. We showed there was no red or fire hydrant. And so, yeah, the judge was still like, I just have to believe the cop is lying, and I'm not willing to do that. And so, and not just the cop was lying, that my client, who also took the stand and told what actually happened, she had to not just believe the cop, but disbelieve my client
And the videotape.
and the video. But I mean, that's where we're at. You would think like, oh, you said under oath that you kept your eyes on him the whole time. The fact you look to the right and you shining your light over here, that's something significant, because in that time period, and you're saying you walked up on him because he walked away from a group, you don't know, and you're 300 feet away, you don't really know what's going on. And we measured it and all of that, so none of that really mattered to the judge. But that's why it's upsetting, but it's also par for the course. To open up that lawsuit opens up like the entire system for ridicule, and they're protectors of this system because the system works for them. It works quite well.
Those 3 plaintiffs were there, though. It's not like they weren't there. They were there. They're survivors
Yeah.
of the actual. We'll talk more about this, like what's next. What options do they even have? Want to look at that. And of course, I got to get your take on these extreme court decisions of late. All that straight ahead is KBLA Talk 1580.
Say the quiet part out loud. KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm James Alexander, a proud member of AARP. 1967, I was 17. That spring, my friends, the Barcades, and I made Soulfinger. It was a hit. Number 3 on the charts. That summer, we became the great Otis Redding's band. First gig, the famed Apollo. That fall, we toured. That winter found me in a morgue identifying the bodies of my bandmates and Otis Redding. My music and their memories bring me joy. The Barcades forever.
What would you call a joy that is as solemn as it is sweet and knows no bounds? A joy that's beautifully rooted in soul and resilience. This is Black Joy, a joy that reflects pride and honor despite every challenge. AARP believes the power of Black joy is limitless, and we celebrate this joy supreme. Join us in celebrating Black joy at aarp.org/blackcommunity.
If this were a Reese's TV ad, you'd be staring at a Reese's peanut butter cup. And sure, my voice is peanut buttery smooth, but still, you need to see the peanut butter cups, right? No? I can really just say Reese's and you'll go get some? Okay, Reese's. 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 Really working, actually. Reese's. Reese's. I'm on to something. Reese's. Reese's. Reese's.
Want my secret for how to prep for summer getaways and get-togethers and get everything for less? Kohl's. I just went shopping and saved big on sunny day essentials like tees, tank tops, shorts, capris, swimwear, and beach towels. Because for every one I bought, I was able to get a second for only $1. Plus, I earned Kohl's Cash. So head to Kohl's and find the top styles for the lowest prices. You'll thank me later. Select styles. Offers in July 13th. Some exclusions apply. See store or Kohl's.com for details.
You're listening to K-Drip, where we play all the best classic water-wasting hits like Sprinklers in the Rain and Leaky Faucets. They're tunes from another time because now that we face a hotter, drier future, every drop counts. Despite an extremely wet winter, keep using less water, fixing leaks, and reusing indoor water for your garden. Visit SaveOurWater.com for more ways to conserve. Up next, brushing your teeth with the water on.
K-Drip. Thanks for waking up with Dominique DePrima on KBLA Talk 1580.
And I'm being joined right now by Hampton University and Howard law graduate attorney Jaaye Person-Lynn. Congratulations, by the way. You're getting recognized later this month for your work.
Yes. The Young Lawyers Division just notified me of the National Bar Association. We have our national conference coming up July 30th through August 4th. And July 31st is the Young Lawyers Division luncheon, where I just received word I'll be receiving an honor for the work I've done. And it's great to be recognized by your own people, and especially here in this, the way the bylaws work of the organization is when you, whatever calendar year you turn 40 in, you're a young lawyer until the end of the conference after your 40th birthday.
Okay.
So I'm still technically a young lawyer until August 4th.
Okay, all right.
So
all right.
to receive an award is quite amazing.
Leave it to the Bar Association to have it down to the day.
Hey,
how long you get to call yourself a young lawyer.
Hey, man, I tell you, those days matter in the law. You miss a filing date by a few seconds, and your case could be done with.
It's all over. That's crazy. Okay, so let's talk a little bit legally here. The judge in Oklahoma has ruled in favor of the city of Tulsa and the state of Oklahoma and dismissed the case with prejudice, meaning they can't file again in the state or the city, right? Yes. So the state court system, I know way back when I was in law school, I remember Professor Ogletree going to the Supreme Court with some Tulsa race massacre survivors. But I'm not sure what happened with the federal case. But yes, it looks like the state case there, which was led by some National Bar Association attorneys. It's over with legally unless maybe there's a Supreme Court, Oklahoma Supreme Court that overrules this judge's ruling. Other than that, I don't see any other state-level legal recourse for them. What about federally?
Federally, there's I'd imagine there's still some possibilities. If they can preliminarily show that there is a federal law, which a lot of the laws that we sue under presently weren't necessarily in place in 1921, and so that would be interesting to, if a federal judge was to rule like, yes, if this happened after the act went in place, you'd have recourse, but because it happened before, there was no law that was violated at that time. So that's a potential outcome, and as messed up as it sounds, this is the system.
So unless they can find a statute or a law that was in place that would protect them during 1921, it wouldn't work.
Yeah,
but there could potentially be a scenario where this could go all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court.
Yeah, it could, and there's also there were civil rights acts in the 1800s, and so there were things that came down in the Reconstruction era that may be available to them. But ultimately, it's a reminder to us who are here now what this country's seriousness about reconciling the past. Right? It's like just get over it, move forward.
Yeah, we said sorry.
Yeah, when here's a great opportunity for you to actually reconcile these people, get these people some kind of justice in their advanced age, but still let them know that their country and their state cared about them somewhat. That would go a long way, but it also opens the door for there's hundreds, maybe even thousands now, descendants of those people who lost their lives or their property.
So, but by the judge saying even the survivors, the people that were actually there firsthand, that they can't prove individual harm, that effectively closes the door on all those descendants.
Yeah.
What happens if they do appeal on a federal level? The grandson has called for a Department of Justice investigation. It seems highly unlikely, but what happens if those three survivors, all of whom are in their hundreds, the youngest is 102, if they don't make it, will that shut the case down, or would their descendants be able to stand in for them in court?
Well, typically in a civil suit where a plaintiff passes away during the pendency of the suit, the estate can keep the suit going forward. And even in like wrongful death cases, right, you have the family that sues. Like if someone has children and they're killed wrongfully and you sue, then the children sue for their loss. Like, I lost my parent, and this is what the financial reconciliation for losing my parent. But then the estate of that person also gets to sue for the rest of their life that they lost out on. So their estate should be able to move forward on the case, even if they pass away before it's resolved.
I mean, it's a grim thing to talk about, but if your plaintiffs are 102, 107, and 109, you kind of have to look at it. I know they waited 100 years, literally, to have a chance to tell their story in front of the Congress.
Yeah.
And even longer than that to have their day in court.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, Congress, the state legislature in Oklahoma, the city of Oklahoma, they can do the right thing without a court order. And we always have to remember that when we're going to court. Like the people on the other side can always do the right thing. There's dozens, hundreds, and thousands of matters that could have went to court but got resolved outside of court without there ever being a filing, because people did the right thing and they compensated people adequately. And so there's still that part of it, but that's more political and social than it is legal.
Right.
But it can still be done if they decide to do it.
I mean, it's a good point, too, in the sense that the city's going, well, we're going to invest in Greenwood and we're going to tell the story and we said we're sorry. But they don't. That kind of shows the disingenuousness of that, because they could just go, here you go, each of you a check for $1 million or whatever it might be.
Just something. And then if it's not accepted, then they can at least say, hey, we offered, we tried to settle.
Yeah. Well, Miss Viola Fletcher does have a memoir coming out next month.
Yeah.
Next month. It's actually out tomorrow, but available next month. I think we should all buy it.
And that's really, when it comes down to the revolutionary, not very many people are going to put on a dashiki, hit the streets, but conscious consumerism is the greatest power we as black people have. And that's something that I've been promoting, because I will go to these wonderful events with black lawyers, black professionals, and all the women, Louis and Gucci, and the red bottoms, and all the men the same. And it's nice. There's real nice fashion items. But the fact of the matter is, we spend a lot of money giving it to those who, if this was 150 years ago, would have been our oppressors. And so having that conscious consumerism and really going out your way to spend money with, even if it's not with black people, at least with businesses that care about your community, support your community, that's the most that any of us, wherever we are, can do. And that's something that I think we should do. And when we do that, then we'll start seeing a lot of the 1.2 trillion that we only spend 2% with other black businesses. Those are the estimates. And so if we get that 1% of a trillion is like 10 billion. And so if we can up that to, or maybe more, but if we can up that to 3 times, go from 2 to 5%, that's a lot more billions flourishing through the black community that I think we should start. And then, because we do set the trends, we get our 2% up to 5. It's going to have more and more people wanting to have what we have. And so that's more commerce for our community. And I think that's one of the ways that we can win. But Black Wall Street is another example of, even when we do that, it can still be burnt down.
Right.
So, but we still want to try as long as we're here. But, at some point we might want to read that second book in the Bible.
And?
That's Exodus, for anybody that don't know.
The movement.
Yeah, we might just have to. And the problem is, in that book, the group that left had to go into the wilderness. They didn't get to the promised land. And that might be the case for us. We might just have to go out to the wilderness, Dominic. But in the wilderness, they'll have internet, so you can still do the show.
I've been doing the show from the wilderness in South Africa, also from the big city in Cape Town and whatnot. But we were out at we were out at Pilanesberg National Forest in South Africa broadcasting. That was pretty much the wilderness.
There it is.
Saw a lion, still broadcasted anyway.
Yeah.
So if it's that wilderness, I'm here for it. But I mean, you say 3/5 is your estimate of about the level of justice we receive. I think it's a generous estimate. What does it take to get to real justice? Other than Exodus, right?
Yeah, because otherwise we're seeking to do what has never been done before in the history of man, which is have the descendants of the enslaved and the descendants of the enslavers living harmoniously on equal footing in the land of enslavement. And so what that really takes is what it takes in any situation where there's been a wrong. It needs real apologies that come with changed behavior, that come with the changing of the symbols, the fact that July 4th, 1776 is the date of the foundation of this country. Our status there at the date of that foundation is still going to be present legally. So to change that, we need to change the documents to a different date and point out that that past is behind us. But as long as those dates are still there, we can't really say.
I mean, if you amend the Constitution, it doesn't change the date, but it does change the law of the land, right?
Yeah, but amending it, I don't think would work. But because the Declaration of Independence states that when the government ceases to meet the needs of the people, it's the duty and the right of the people to abolish that government and reinstitute another government that then works for the people.
Of course, they're referring to the Brits when they say that. But, I mean, honestly, Attorney Jaaye Person-Lynn, reading these decisions, the extreme court decisions on affirmative action, on stalking, on discrimination against LGBTQ people, on a woman's right to choose, and now this staggeringly unjust decision to dismiss the Greenwood case. It does make me think, like, is it revolution time? Are we at a point where it has become completely impossible for Black people to get justice in this country through the means that currently exist?
We've been here for a long time. It's not like we
Absolutely.
just got to this
I'm not
point.
saying it's new.
But what we can say
I mean, I
now,
do see progress, but I'm not saying it's new.
Well, what we can say now is that we've had the legal mind of a Thurgood Marshall. We've had the leadership of a Martin, a Malcolm, and all of those, and we're still here. And so, yes, it does mandate us to start looking at new ways. And, the fact of the matter is, if you're talking revolution, this is America. All the revolutions that have changed things and gotten people's rights have been very bloody, very violent.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, then we can no longer follow this path of...
I mean, even if you're talking the civil rights movement, right? Because in reality, a lot of what happened during what they consider the classic civil rights period was changing people's mindsets.
Yeah.
Just as we've seen the changing of mindsets with the Black Lives Matter movement, which, by the way, is turning 10 on Saturday. Yeah. Well, technically the 13th. But anyway, so it's not, I mean, you say bloody, but some of them are revolutions of consciousness. But even if you look at the civil rights movement, there was a lot of bloodshed, a lot of people murdered. Yeah, a lot of people. And a lot of people incarcerated for life. I mean, we just lost Mutulu Shakur, who
rest in peace.
The bulk of his adult life incarcerated as a political prisoner.
Yeah, and there's still several others who are still there. And, then we look at the the Assata Shakurs who left and got to live outside of prison walls, and Robert Franklin Williams, who left and got to live outside of prison walls. And you start seeing the Geronimo Pratt got out as soon as he touched down. He was out of there.
He went to Tanzania.
Even W.E.B. Du Bois left. Stevie just left.
Well, Stevie's still here. But I mean, he says he's leaving. And certainly he has I could see him getting a place in Ghana. I wouldn't mind having a home in Africa, in Senegal, or I don't want to say because I don't want y'all to know where to look for me.
But that's something to think about, like, because giving up those hot showers, those paved roads.
They got hot showers in Senegal.
They do, but it's
they
not
got
as prevalent.
Hot showers in the Gambia.
Yeah,
and
the first time
roads.
I used the outhouse was in the Guguletu Township in Cape Town, South Africa. And I was like, wow.
Yeah, well, Cape Town is a huge city, so that means you were in the ghetto, which is what
the
township really means.
Yeah,
it's the hood.
Yeah.
Talking with attorney Jaaye Person-Lynn, and you're invited in. 800-920-1580, news, traffic, and sports. Then more, only right here.
More of First Things First with Dominique DePrima when we come forward.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. A statewide ban on gender-affirming care for juveniles in Tennessee is going into effect. The law prohibiting hormone treatments and other therapies for transgender minors is moving forward following an appellate court decision over the weekend. Litigation filed by the ACLU that claims the law infringes on parental rights is still pending, meaning the rules could be blocked again. Authorities are investigating after thieves broke into the home of African-American Tina Knowles. She's the mother of Beyonce and Solange Knowles. The Los Angeles Police Department confirms her Hollywood home was robbed last Wednesday. TMZ reports the thieves made off with more than $1 million in cash and jewelry after stealing Knowles' entire safe. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Need an accident attorney by your side? All you got to do is call the accident guys.
Injured in a car accident or at work? The accident guys can come to you almost anywhere, so you don't have to come to us. Se habla español.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Dodgers take a 4-game winning streak into the All-Star break. They're back in first place in the NL West for the first time since June 5th. They lead Arizona by a half game. Major League Baseball's All-Star game is Tuesday night in Seattle. Dodgers right fielder Mookie Betts is competing in today's home run Gun Derby. The competition begins at 5 p.m. The All-Star Weekend actually kicked off on Friday in Seattle with the new Swingman Classic, an all-star game for HBCU players. The Swingman Classic was created by Hall of Famer Ken Griffey Jr. 50 players from 28 HBCUs played in the Classic, which is designed to give more exposure for black college players who want to play in the major leagues. Griffey plans to make the Swingman Classic an annual event during All-Star Weekend. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Hey LA, are you feeling the heat? LA DWP has rebates up to $225 on new air conditioners to help you beat the heat and save money. Plus, you can sign up for Level Pay to get predictable monthly bills for easy budgeting. Stay cool. Visit ladwp.com/COOL-LA. That's ladwp.com/COOL-LA.
At Grainger, we're for the ones who pay attention to every little detail, the ones who fuss, tinker, and sweat the small stuff. Because you know the tiniest thing can make the biggest difference when it comes to keeping business moving. We get it. We're the same way, offering access to product experts to help you quickly and easily find what you need. So whatever your industry, you know you're always getting professional-grade products. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
The Dell Technologies Black Friday and July event starts now with limited quantity deals on top business PCs with Windows 11 Pro. Save on select Vostro laptops with built-in security features and select Latitude laptops with enhanced privacy, collaboration, and connectivity. Plus, get special financing with Dell Business Credit. Dell Technologies recommends Windows 11 Pro for business. Call a Dell Technologies advisor at 877-ASK-DELL. Offered to business customers by WebBank, who determines qualifications for and terms of credit.
Mom's early Alzheimer's diagnosis was hard to take.
And when I left the oven on, we decided together that it was time to see a doctor and make a plan.
Early detection gave us more time to seek out information and support as a family.
If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together. For more information, visit alz.org/time to talk. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
Wendy's is open till midnight or later, so you can give in to the craving and go night mode. Now all of your favorite menu items just got their bedtime extended. You can get what you want even later, like the Baconator with 6 strips of bacon, or the perfect fries and Frosty Duo. If you're up later, then so are we. So go ahead and pull through the drive-thru. When the craving hits, go night mode at Wendy's. Open till midnight or later. All right, see ya later.
At participating U.S. Wendy's, hours may vary.
Broadcasting live from Leimert Park, USA. Welcome back to your home for unapologetically progressive radio. KBLA Talk 1580.
And we're here with Attorney Jaaye Person-Lynn. Just we were reflecting on Tulsa and the decision there. But during news, traffic, and sports, we were also talking about the affirmative action ruling. The ruling by the Supreme Court, which basically shuts down any so-called race-based solutions.
Yeah.
Really. And I started out the show talking about the difference between reparation and restitution. I'm not quite sure where affirmative action falls in that spectrum or how you would define one versus the other. But you said that you don't think all affirmative action is dead, basically, based on that ruling.
Yes. Strictly race-based affirmative action takes no account to where someone is from. And so if there's just race-based now, hey, we have a quota for black people, that black person could be from Kenya, Ghana, Jamaica, wherever. But if the goal is to give reparative actions for the crime of the enslavement of African people here in the United States, then I didn't see anything in that ruling that would prohibit universities looking at individuals' backgrounds, specifically if they are descendants of enslaved Africans in the United States, and having a consideration for that. And if that is the case, then these schools will do that and institute a plan that shows like, hey, this is the economic status of these people who descended from here, not just race, because we're not doing it because of their race. We're doing it because of their experience. And if they go that route, then it will be more focused and directed on us descendants of enslaved Africans.
So you're saying that but then we would have to individually all prove, just like the ADOS folks are saying, which I agree to disagree about that we would have to basically, each individual is going to have to do genealogy or something or other. It's highly unlikely that would be a program that would be adopted on a national level, right?
Possibly, but each individual institution, they certainly can, and it's up for them to accept what they would use to show. Like, a lot of us can at least trace our family history back to the South somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of us can. A lot of us can trace it directly to enslavement, but now this is what you have to do to go to school.
Well, some people will just get in, but to get that extra consideration, that's what you'd have to do.
And something tells me that, the GOP will shut that right down too, because right now they don't even want us to be able to mention race or even say that, racism is a factor.
This isn't about race. This is about experience of descendants of enslaved people. And now we all know enslavement was based on race, but that's how you get around it legally, because anything you say, I'm doing this for this race, is going to be deemed unconstitutional. There's no two ways about it.
Right. I mean, and I see that a lawsuit has been filed to stop now, legacy preferences, which help the rich, and athletic preferences. But that's just a tiny, tiny fraction. That doesn't offset the losses that we have seen. People have been making the argument that those colleges are going to get the diversity that they're looking for, one way or the other. But based on California, that is not true.
Yeah, and California is unique because in the state schools, it's much different, right? Because you can't take any race, and we've been on that
right. We have
for
Prop
a long
209,
time.
right?
Yeah,
so there
and
can
that
be,
was a long. I was in high school.
That's what I mean. So what happened? There's hardly any black people at UC Berkeley, at UCLA, at the so-called elite institutions. We have been pretty much erased. Yeah. So this idea that these institutions will find a way, it's just not true, at least not so far.
Well, the public institutions, I agree. The private institutions, they have in my experience, like a different mindset on it, and where they really want the best and the brightest. And so we have that, but through it all, we still have Hampton University. We still have Howard University.
HBCUs, yeah.
And so, and the experience of the alumni in those spaces, in those universities, tells the world that the talent is there. And so I don't want people to get too down on the affirmative action thing, because many of us, we work in this space. We didn't get to KBLA by affirmative action, unless you look at the steps that Tavis Smiley took was affirmative action for us to have a space on the radio. But other than that, we're here because it's something that we built. And so that's really, all of these rulings kind of lead us back to that same conclusion.
I mean, to an extent, except for that Greenwood is an example of something we built being burnt to the ground, then stolen, and then, no, you can't even get back what you had. And that's not reparation. That's why I said, okay, so tell me the difference between reparation and restitution. Because all of these mainstream outlets are calling Greenwood reparations, but to me, I don't see it that way. If they own those homes, those 1,200 homes, those 60 businesses, the library, the church, all of those things, how is that reparation? You took something of mine. If you give it back to me, isn't that restitution?
It is, and that's, in my case, is when somebody breaks something or harms something and they have to pay for that, and that's considered restitution. It's not reparations. So I'd say restitution, the difference would be more of a individual versus, like, macro versus micro, whereas restitution goes back to the individual, whereas reparations is more so for the group. But I mean, or you could just call it individual restitution or individual reparations. But at the end of it, Yeah, and you point that out, and I've thought of that for years. Like, hey, why don't you guys just build your own and lift yourself up by your bootstraps? Well, we've done that several times, and so many, if not all of them, have met the same fate. Because even before Black Wall Street, we had the Freedmen's Bureau, and all the black people put their money in the banks with the Freedmen's Bureau, and you had people fresh out of slavery, enslavement, running these banks, and not necessarily knowing the game and knowing all the rules. And so a lot of money was lost there too. So there's several times, and all of it, it points us back to doing for self. And then when we say, hey, we've done for self, but we still ended up in this messed up position, then I think we have to start discussing revolution or exodus.
Talking with Attorney Jaaye Person-Lynn, I don't like to be hyperbolic. And I don't, clearly we're not in a position to have a revolution in the traditional sense right now. But I do think that a lot of folks who have worked within the system to the extent that we could, for me, it's just like another reminder that that's not enough.
It's not, and as long as the system is in place, it will never be. The foundation is set. You can redo the paint, you can change the roof, you can knock down some walls and make it an open space concept home, but the foundation remains the same. And the foundation of the United States of America is based on those beautiful words that said all men are created equal, which clearly did not include us or our ancestors, being so the man credited with drafting those beautiful words owned hundreds of slaves, including his own children at the time that he wrote those words. So as long as that is the foundation, we cannot expect change. And if we're talking about reforming this same system, it's always going to go back to its natural order and its natural cause. So if you're not talking about abolishing this system, you're talking about accepting it for what it is. And that's okay. Just acknowledge it. And that's something you have to tell yourself every day. Like, hey, I'm waking up and I'm a second-class citizen, but it's okay because I have paved roads and hot showers and make a good salary.
All right. When we come forward, I want to talk about the fake website case. The Supreme Court ruling seems to be focused on LGBTQ plus rights, but for me, it feels like it has a lot more implications than that. I want to get your take on that. It's KBLA Talk 1580.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominic DePrima when we come forward.
The Supreme Court rules against affirmative action. I'm Maisha Cairo here with your K-Black Minute News. The Supreme Court rules against affirmative action in the higher education admission process. Affirmative action in higher education began in the late 1960s and aimed to increase the number of black students and students of color at colleges and universities. It has assisted in leveling the playing field for many years. Due to racism and the complicated relationship between students of color and the world of higher education, affirmative action was set in place. The recent decision comes as a shock to many, but not to everyone. In fact, in April of 2022, Pew Research Center reported that nearly 3 in 4 people in the U.S. said that race or ethnicity should not be considered in college admissions. I'm Maisha Cairo. That's your K-Black Minute News.
You're listening to K-Drip, where we play all the best classic water-wasting hits like Watering Your Lawn during the hottest time of the day and Leaky Faucets. They're tunes from another time because now that we face a hotter, drier future, every drop counts. Despite an extremely wet winter, keep using less water, fixing leaks, and reusing indoor water for your garden. Visit SaveOurWater.com for more ways to conserve. Up next, brushing your teeth with the water on. K-Drip.
Black Lives Matters turns 10, and KBLA Talk 1580 is proud to be the exclusive media partner of the People's Justice Festival. This Saturday, July 15th, 12 to 6 p.m. in Leimert Park. Come join us as we celebrate the life-saving and history-making work of Black Lives Matter to help bend the arc of the moral universe toward justice. There will be live music performances, a children's village, giveaways, vendors, a healing justice space, Skillshare, and amazing speakers including Green Party presidential candidate Dr. Cornel West, live on stage at 4:30 p.m. For more information, go to blmgrassroots.org. That's www.blmgrassroots.org. Dominique DePrima and Tavis Smiley will be main stage hosts throughout the day, and the KBLA Talk 1580 delegation will be out in full force. So, join us this Saturday, July 15th, 12 to 6 p.m. in Leimert Park as we celebrate the 10th anniversary of Black Lives Matter. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
I done plant my seeds, now I'm rooted. Brown skin popping, I'm rooted. Can pull the hood out me, I'm rooted. Rooted, nappy head, rooted.
This is KBLA Talk 1580, where hate meets a scholarly match.
Right, so the U.S. Supreme Court has made a number of decisions, important decisions, like they typically do, I guess, around this time of year. Jaaye Person-Lynn, one of those lawsuits was based on whether or not a business who says they have Christian values would be forced to make a website for an LGBTQ business or person. And even though apparently there was no request for a website, their hypothetical which makes it really weird, because I always thought you had to have like a victim or someone that suffered harm to have this kind of case, but apparently not. Supreme Court ruled that if it's against their religious beliefs, they can discriminate.
Yeah, and that's to me consistent with the First Amendment. Where it gets tricky, I would say, is in the commerce clause of it, right? Because if we're doing this, we're involved in interstate commerce, and that's what the Brown v. Board of Education decision came down on, is that when it affects commerce, interstate commerce, you cannot discriminate because, at least based on race. But then it also, race is a protected class and has the highest protections under the Constitution. Sexual preference doesn't have as high of a protection as race under the United States Constitution, according to the United States Supreme Court. And so I certainly, especially with this particular court, understand the ruling. It just comes down to, dealing whether it will come back and be relitigated on the commerce issue. Can you discriminate in matters based on sexual preference?
Well, this says, that the state non-discrimination law could not compel her to make same-sex websites, even though no one from a same-sex couple or business or whatever had asked for one, but it went all the way to the Supreme Court. Now, according to USA Today, 65% of voters believe businesses should not be allowed to turn away customers of a certain sexual orientation because of the business owner's personal beliefs. So, again, the Supreme Court out of step with the American public. But this seems to me to open the door for discrimination. What if my religion doesn't believe I should, be making black people websites or Latino people websites or women websites? I mean, people believe all kinds of things. We have freedom of religion. In fact, we know that religion was used to justify our enslavement. So what's to stop this from just meaning, okay, it's a free for all. You can discriminate against people as long as you say it's for your religious beliefs.
Well, I'd imagine the free market would be the check and the balance. And so,
boo.
I mean, that may be, but this is California.
So you're talking like trickle down justice?
Yeah,
is that what we're talking about?
If people stop supporting this business because it doesn't support this community, then that's what Dr. King and them did. That's what Jesse Jackson's been doing for the last 60 years. And so that's what would
But
have
here's
to
my
happen.
example, Attorney PersonLynn. Let's say in the town or the state where you live, there is only one website maker, right? And you really need a website, and that person is a racist, and their religion says they can't make websites for black people. Now what?
Well, I guess we have to cross that bridge when we get there, because websites are online things.
I mean,
so
that's
you
just an
can-
example. Could be a
you need
shoemaker,
more
could
like
be a car dealer.
A cake, a wedding cake, right? They're the only cake maker in town,
Right.
And they don't want to make the cake
for you,
for the same-sex couple,
or the black people,
or the black people.
Latino people, or the Chinese people, whoever it is.
I mean,
It's basically legalized discrimination in business.
it is, and to a certain degree, I support being able to discriminate, because I want to turn people away from
Wow, Attorney
places.
PersonLynn.
And
Wow.
Now, there's in public spaces, that's for everybody, but private spaces are not for everybody. And unless you're saying your involvement in interstate commerce makes you a public space.
Well, yeah, because you're using the public roads, you're using the public, the commons. So if you're completely private, then go ahead and discriminate. But don't use the public roads, don't use public water supply, don't use the electric grid, because we all pay for that. All of us, gay, straight, black, white. So if you're 100% private, then you can 100% discriminate. But that's not there's no single business anywhere in the United States that can meet that standard.
That is very true. There isn't, but you do have membership places that discriminate. Like, I can't just walk into Costco. I got to pay that membership fee.
Yeah, but it's not whether or not you can be a member is not based on your race, sexual orientation, or religion. That's where the problem comes in.
Well, but at the same time, should a church be forced to accept a same-sex couple?
We're not talking about a church. We're talking about a business, open for business, using the public good and advertising to one and all. I don't know. A church, well, I would hope no one would discriminate, but a church, as we know, churches are highly segregated. So
they are.
I would argue that if you followed their tenets, you should be able to be there regardless of who you are. But I ain't no religious scholar.
Yeah, I'm not either. And but where I see it is, if you're opening up your business to the public, then you should not be able to discriminate unless, I mean, you know, all businesses have those signs. We reserve the right to refuse.
Right, you got to have on a shirt and shoes. Okay.
Yeah, but it shouldn't be, you know, and for the nudists, you know, now they can't get their groceries because they're nudists based on their religion. And so
that's not a religion.
I mean, it could be, you know,
well,
they're purists. They're like Adam and Eve.
All right, now you're doing too much. Talking with Attorney Jaaye Person-Lynn. We'll get his closing arguments when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 is an intervention. When we come forward, includes you. KBLA Talk 1580, turning pain into power. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 joins you in standing for voting rights. When We All Vote is a leading national nonpartisan initiative on a mission to change the culture around voting and to increase participation in each and every election by helping to close the race and age gap. Created by Michelle Obama, When We All Vote brings together individuals, institutions, brands, and organizations to register new voters across the country and advance civic education for the entire family and voters of every age to build an informed and engaged electorate for today and generations to come. When We All Vote empowers their supporters and volunteers to take action through voting, advocating for their rights, and holding their elected officials accountable. Please visit whenweallvote.org to stand up for your rights, voting rights. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm getting vaccinated with Prevnar 20.
So am I, because I'm at risk for pneumococcal pneumonia.
If you're 19 or older with chronic conditions like asthma, diabetes, COPD, or heart disease, or are 65 or older, you are at increased risk for pneumococcal pneumonia. Ask your doctor or pharmacist about Prevnar 20, pneumococcal 20-valent conjugate vaccine. It can help protect you against pneumococcal pneumonia in just one dose. Even if you've already been vaccinated with other pneumonia vaccines, Prevnar 20 may help provide added protection. Prevnar 20 is approved for adults to help prevent infections from 20 strains of the bacteria that cause pneumococcal pneumonia. Continued approval may depend on a supportive study. Don't get Prevnar 20 if you've had a severe allergic reaction to the vaccine or its ingredients. Adults with weakened immune systems may have a lower response to the vaccine. Side effects include pain and swelling at the injection site, fatigue, headache, muscle, and joint pain. For full prescribing information, please call 1-855-213-2138 or visit Prevnar20.com.
Mom's early Alzheimer's diagnosis was hard to take.
And when I left the oven on, we decided together that it was time to see a doctor and make a plan.
Early detection gave us more time to seek out information and support as a family.
If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together. For more information, visit alz.org/time-to-talk. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
The conversation continues right now with Dominic DePrima on First Things First.
Jaaye Person-Lynn, tell them where to follow you if they want to keep the arguments going on off the air, and then handing you the mic to say whatever you want to bring us home on today.
Certainly, thank you. And just another acknowledgement saying thank you for having me here this morning. It's a great place to be on a Monday morning.
Yeah,
I'll
it's
tell
great
you
to
that.
have you in.
You can find me, Lincoln Lawyer LA, on Instagram, and it's funny, the Lincoln Lawyer show just came on, so I got all these random tags about people at home watching the Lincoln Lawyer.
They think you're a television show. Okay.
But Lincoln Lawyer LA on Instagram, Jaaye, Jaaye Person-Lynn on Facebook, and then Jaaye ESQ on Twitter, but mainly on Facebook and Instagram. And as far as just these points, it's very important for our people to understand that this is the same body, this United States Supreme Court, that ruled in 1857 that a black man has no rights that a white man is bound to respect. This is the same body. And so to put your faith, after seeing some things, yes, you got a little motivation that things are changing. But the goal and the point of my existence here is to get my people to understand that we will never have better leadership than what we've had. We'll never have better legal strategists than what we've had. And we're still in this place. So we have to start looking at different solutions. And, oftentimes in personal relationships, people don't act right. And then as soon as the real threat, like, oh my God, they're really going to leave me, then they get to acting right, or you leave and get this drama and toxicity out of your life. And so I think until we get to that point that it's going to be, hey, either act right or we're getting out of here, I don't think they're going to act right, because that's what bullies do.
Got to leave it there.
Yeah.
Jaaye Person-Lynn, thank you so much. Tavis Smiley is up next. I'm Dominic DePrima. Until tomorrow, one love.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information